Paige, here's our video lesson from Monday, August the 4th. Hadn't been able to take a look at this for a couple of weeks, but saw some really good maintenance of some of the things that we had worked on and improved over the last few weeks. On the left, the down the line view on the left is our kind of first swing, and then on the right will be with kind of the idea of trying to get the club a little steeper in the downswing, get our hands working on a downward and outward path rather than kind of dropping down and then swinging out from behind us around to the ball kind of in two pieces. We're trying to blend this downward and outward idea together. So take a look at the setup. Setup looks pretty good. Like we said, if we might be a little bit far away from the ball, if we creep up to the ball just maybe a couple of inches, that might help us, but this is not a showstopper here. Our distance from the ball. Then pretty good angles or posture in both videos, looking pretty good. So we'll take a line up from the club shaft here. That kind of comes right up through the belt line. Same on the right hand video, which is our after video. And then we'll kind of click these through. And one thing that we'll see that kind of gives us a difficulty in getting the club up in the air and swinging down on the ball is how we see, and we had talked about this before, and it's something we can come back to and clean up, but how we see how low the club is at this point in the swing and how inside or to our side of the ball the hands are. So here are our hands, or the club is. So here is our hands here in space in this circle, and then of course we see the club head low and working back around behind us. And so essentially what this does is this kind of prevents us from getting the club and the hands up enough soon enough so that they can go directly back down to the ball. What our tendency would be here, we'll see, as the hands kind of get up to more of an appropriate top of the backswing height, the club shaft is just really flat here as the hands and arms try to carry the club to the top. And you do a good job here of, from this position, not coming straight over the top and just being totally steep and killing it. In fact, you do the opposite, where you actually do a good job of getting the club to retrace its original backswing journey, if you will. But from the top, we'll draw a line from the butt of the club down to the ball, and then from the butt of the club down to the ball. And what we knew over here on the left-hand side, and we'll move that video first, we knew that our hands have a tendency not only to drop down, but really work back a little bit more. So the hands are going to drop almost straight down towards our right thigh before they start working out. And so right here, we'll use a different color. We'll use the yellow color. Here's the club shaft kind of laying down here, which is good, because ideally we would want the club shaft to be laying down between these two lines that we drew originally. But as we come down, we just get the hands and the club, like we said, retracing its backswing path. And so now you can kind of see by the flash of the blur of the club here, where basically the club head now is right up here, and then it is going to kind of continue down, and we'll just use a straight line, kind of flash right through here where this red line is. And so you can see that is considerably lower than the green line there. So essentially what we would want is to have the club head, and we'll take a look at some videos of some other folks, but we would want the club head to kind of eventually find this green line and trace back down it back to the ball. Now on the other side we have the after, where we said we want to take a more of a straight line approach with the hands from the top of the backswing position down to the golf ball. And we'll see if we move both videos kind of back to their top position here, we'll see that in the video on the right, which is kind of the after and the idea of getting the hands to work more directly down this top line. That's not ideally where we want it to be, but for us, we need to feel like those hands work down that top line. If we kind of click down through here, we can see, even at this point, how much closer the hands are in the right-hand video to that top line at this point in the swing. The circle kind of touching it, whereas the other circle is not. And as we drop down a little bit more, to this point in the swing right here, we'll take the circles away, and you can see where the club shaft on the right-hand video is nicely in between those two lines, whereas the club shaft on the left-hand video is already starting to kind of lay down behind and underneath that green line. And so being under the plane is really just as bad as being steep. In fact, it can be even worse sometimes in that we don't really have a chance to get the club back to the ball steep enough to hit down on it and compress it and get the ball to climb up the face and go up in the air. So you were talking about having those real low hooks with even the higher lofted clubs, and that's kind of where this is coming from. And so even here, you know, the club head on the right-hand video gets below the plane also, but it was so much closer for so much longer. You know, here's the club head back here in the other, in the before video, and it's so much closer to the plane, so much longer. And you see how the difference in the shaft angle here just prior to impact tells us that we're kind of less of this down and around and a little bit more of a straight down, and where we're trying to actually get the club to swing out to the right, you know, maybe to the right of this post. We're trying to get the club to actually swing out in this direction, and we need to get the hands going down and out, whereas our hands here on the left-hand video are really starting to kind of hook around to the left and drag the club head around there with us. And you can see, if I take the lines away, you can see how this club shaft is down here a little bit more, whereas here it's pointing towards the garage door a little earlier. And that's just kind of flashing past our body. And in the right-hand video, the after video, we got a little bit more of this down and out towards the second baseman, better, longer. So I think that on the right is going to help us get the hands higher in the backswing, and then on a direct line down to the golf ball rather than this two-part down and then around. So if we look at our video of I.K. Kim, LPGA Tour player from down the line, you know, we'll see her posture is a little more upright than ours, and so she's a little bit closer to the ball than we are, and this might be something that we want to get back to emulating a little bit more, but that's not necessarily what's precluding us from hitting the ball as solid as we want to. But as we see her take the club back, her club head is going to be on that bottom red line to slightly above that bottom red line. And so she'll swing the arms and the club up more than low and around, right? So then once she gets the, you know, her left shoulder is down like we want our left shoulder to be down. And then from here, you know, we can see her hands right here at the top of the frame. And I've drawn that line from the butt of the club down to the ball. And if you watch her hands, you know, her hands are going to go kind of right down that top red line. You know, it's a little bit underneath there. We don't want it to ride down it or on top of it. But you can see how the lower body's leading, and now this club shaft at this point in the swing, whereas at this point our hands are, and I'll use a green circle to kind of describe where our hands typically would be at this point. Typically our hands would be here and then using a green line, our club would kind of be laid down back here somewhere. And so she's just kind of going with a direct line down to the ball. She's leading with the lower body and keeping her upper body turned, so we're kind of pointing over here, left shoulder down, and kind of pointing over here, towards the second baseman longer, and using the lower body to shift into the left side and carry the club. And she's just using the arms to just kind of bring the club straight down. Here again, at this point in the swing, here's the club, kind of nicely between those two lines, as we pointed out. And then as she gets down to a delivery position, the head of the club is kind of laying down on this red line, lower red line. And then it's just going to trace right down the red line. And she's swinging the club out away from her right hip. So you see how much she's turned here. We can see her scorecard in her back pocket coming around, and her left side of her back belt line coming around there too. So she's really led with the lower body and just swung the club down and out in the direction of the second baseman. And as you can see, the golf ball doesn't lie here. She's swinging down and from the inside, and as she hits the ball, we'll just trace it with these green circles, and there it goes, straight down the target line she was playing on. I'm not sure what ball flight she may be intending to play here, but whether it's a slight fade or a slight draw, she got the ball to start really straight and really pretty much in the original direction she was aligned. So we just go right out here. That kind of matches up nicely with all of her alignments, right through her shoulders, feet, knees, and hips aligned right nicely there. But the whole time, she's swinging the club to the inside of the target line. Left shoulder goes down, and the hands go more up, and the arms go up with the club. And now from, what goes up can come down. So she's just going to drive the hands right down towards the golf ball. The club head is still up in the air at this point. You can see really that her left shoulder is lower than her right here. So she's not dipping down with that right shoulder to get the club down to the ground. She's just using her swinging arms and using the hinge to really thrust the club head down onto the golf ball. At this point, she's really turned these hips after shifting to the left, and so in keeping her upper body quiet with the shoulders, fairly passive, and she's not thinking about turning the shoulders, she's just leading everything with the lower body. Now the club head is allowed to just kind of thump down onto the ball. She hit that ball off a tee, so she didn't take a big divot. She might have scraped the ground a little bit, but she was definitely swinging down. And that's the result that she got. She just kind of chases through it with her follow through there. So keep working on that idea of, getting the hands to go up as they're going in. Get the left shoulder turned down pretty good, and then we're thinking of taking the hands in a straight line down from their place in space at the top of the swing straight down to the golf ball. And we're going to use the hinge of the club to just kind of throw, if you will, the club head down at the golf ball and get it to thump into the ground. Here we are at impact, just prior to impact, and your hands are well ahead of the golf ball here. And so that really, if not ensures, facilitates a downward strike. So we just have to kind of sync that up a little bit and get the timing right, if you will. And you'll be able to hit down on it and overcome the tendency and the urge that we all have to try to somehow get the club to go under the ball to get it to go up in the air, rather than using the club the way it was designed to hit down on the object in order to uh, use the loft in the club and let the loft get the ball in the air rather than us doing something to manipulate the club with our hands. So better longer here. We really got the club to come down, and in this swing, we definitely hit ball first. And then there's just that little bit of want to flip at it right there at the end to feel like we get the ball in the air, but much better. And again, it's just going to take repetitions. It's just going to take doing. And then when you go out to the range and you hit down a couple of times, even if you don't take the best divot in the world, just the idea that the club is moving downward through the ball will improve your contact. And then, you know, you'll associate a feel with this hitting down and the desired ball flight result. It'll become easier to do the more you work on it.